Okay, we're here today. This is a counselling session, and this is your first counselling session of the particular moments we have. But first of all, I wanted to talk about the contract. In terms of counselling, everything's confidential. I mean, whatever you say is, we stay in this room. Nothing will be ever expressed outside, unless you become a threat to yourself. You might do something self-harm, or you feel like you're really a threat to somebody else, to a high level. Therefore, I'll need to contact a member of the Garda Síochána or somebody else, just in case. But do you understand how the contract works?
Yep, no, I appreciate that these would be the parameters of counselling, and I don't anticipate any difficulty that would necessitate my withdrawal.
Okay.
But thank you for clarifying that entitlement.
Okay. So, Brian, what are you doing here? I mean, tell me what's going on in your life that makes you come here.
Well, it's I mean, why am I here? That great existentialist question that philosophers have struggled with over the centuries. I suppose specifically in a more subjective context, the thing that comes most immediately to mind, or is occupying my mind, is I suppose I have a son who now resides in San Francisco. And while there is a logic to his reason for being there, I suppose there are issues for me around attachment, separation. It's about a year now since he departed. I suppose the thing that I probably struggle most with is I don't have a perception that his time there has much in the way of meaningful purpose. That reflects on a lack of communication.
So in ways, what you're trying to say in this session is that you feel that even though your son's is in America, that you feel that you have some ways not being rejected, but you feel like it's like you as a person, you were closer to your son years ago, but now you're a bit distant from him, and is that affecting the way you perceive yourself and your sons?
Yeah, I suppose perhaps in that respect, maybe it is to do with he's not a child anymore. He is 18, so he's an adolescent. He's actually very mature for his age, and certainly in comparison with his peer group. So in that respect, maybe the worry is unwarranted, but it's odd that there is an emotive impact, and maybe that's just part of.
You think that worry will subside after time, because life is ever changing. Your son is becoming, as you said before, 18. He's forming his own identity. So it's like him breaking away, defining himself. Yeah, and you still want to have that connection.
Yeah, no, I think
and the connection is going to be different now, moving forward.
Yeah, no, I think that is true. I suppose by comparison, he does have a sibling, a brother who is still, closer to home, who, funnily enough, despite the distance or the closer proximity, I don't really have that much more contact with his older brother. But I suppose it's the fact that he is nearby.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be a contributing factor to my sort of
Do you think that his bond
concern.
your older son? Do you think that in ways is he forming his own identity, or you just might have had issues with each other and you kind of drifted for a bit and you might return to a different place, a better place going forward?
Yes,
Is
well,
that your concern?
Yeah, well, I think the older brother, he was always determined to be independent.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose the ironic thing about Gavin's situation is the fact that he's with his mother.
Mm-hmm.
They travel together to San Francisco. He was born there, but the decision was made when he was barely 10 months old that we would return to Ireland, that he would grow up here, be educated here.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose maybe I hadn't anticipated that immediately upon completion of his formative education, he would make the decision to travel to America.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps I'm the one who has been left behind. I think abandonment is probably too...
Yeah.
Well, maybe there is an element of a role reversal.
I think what you're trying to say, I don't know, correct, is that you nurtured your son, you helped him to his education, and you did so much for him. Then you feel that he kind of may have not rejected you or abandoned you, but that you did so much work for your son, but now he's living his life, and you feel like left behind.
Yeah.
Somewhat. And not in a bad way. You just feel like,
Yeah, I mean, perhaps maybe, the fact that I feel that, I suppose there's two interpretations. One being that there is some debt of gratitude
mm-hmm.
that needs to be repaid. The other explanation is the fact that the time was so well invested that he has acquired the necessary independence to make this decision to move away, and that possibly he is prospering in whatever
mm-hmm.
endeavor he is.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing for you when you think that your sons are progressing in their own particular? Obviously it's a good thing, isn't it?
I suppose ultimately that's what all parents
mm-hmm.
hope for
mm-hmm.
in respect to their children, that they do become independent, that they are able to function in,
mm-hmm.
And adapt to whatever environment that they find themselves in. Maybe it could just be that, it was immediately upon completion, it was soon after completion of the leaving certificate,
mm-hmm.
that he made what was a big decision
mm-hmm.
to emigrate. I suppose I was probably 25 when I first emigrated.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I need to
mm-hmm.
remember that he is
you wanted more time
in the care of his mother, and she will look after him.
mm-hmm. But from what you just said there, is the point that you feel abandoned, like not upset, but even though they're from their own lives, that deep down you feel that there's some issues that maybe they haven't been sort of more interactive with you right now. They've been sort of like they're there, and then all of a sudden they disappear on you. They're not engaged in your life anymore.
Yeah,
is that how it affects you?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a matter of better communication. Again, I intimated earlier that he is not, I think he was always somewhat disillusioned with his own peer group. For example,
mm-hmm.
he doesn't carry a mobile phone.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of occasions when he was provided a mobile phone was procured for him. The first one was misplaced when the credit ran out, and the second one was misplaced when the battery went flat. So he was, I suppose that was his attempt to sort of comply with the wishes of parental authority. But he isn't somebody who is not predisposed. He doesn't use social media or the more modern methods of communication, and I think that does maybe.
Does that hinder you, because you can talk to, if it's social media, you can talk to him through Skype, or is that a factor that where you don't communicate because he doesn't use these channels of communication?
Yeah. I think
that lessens your ability to interact with his life more.
Yeah, no, I think I'd be more willing to try these mediums, but his perception of them is that it's a narcissistic endeavor, that his own life is neither sufficiently interesting or for public consumption.
Is that your perception or his?
I think that's probably how I describe him. He is, he's methodical. He perseveres. I think he, whatever furrow he's ploughing, it's his own. And I suppose, from my perspective, maybe if I knew a little bit more about precisely what occupies his time, that would.
Going forward, your emotions, your feelings. I mean, how do you feel going forward to address these issues? Because I think going forward, being in the present moment and making a plan, what do you feel is your best step to improve possibly the models of communications you have going forward with the sons?
Yeah,
or maybe with the mother, I don't know, it's up to you.
Yeah, I think maybe it is, for most people, it's the unknown that provokes the greatest sort of anxiety or fear. So, it is, we're at a stage where initially he was departing for the year, and, travel is a good investment of time. I think it's as important as formative education in terms of broadening the mind, So it may be that 10 months have passed, and so we're nearing a point where another decision will need to be made. That decision could possibly involve a return, or if that wasn't the case, then maybe I'd be inclined towards visiting him.
And that's the end goal. What is your end goal? What do you feel like? You said you might visit him, or he might return. And what do you hope to happen to make you feel a bit more, better in yourself going forward?
Yeah, I tend to sort of deal with things at face value. And when you're separated from something, I know you can. Maybe sometimes its truer value becomes more apparent. I think we're inclined to take things perhaps for granted, and I would subscribe to the philosophy that the truer value of a particular individual is determined by the impact of their departure. I know certainly in the work environment, I worked with quite a few people, and they could go missing for a few days before anybody realizes they didn't come in. It's so yeah. But I mean, I think I am dealing with the impact of his departure, and perhaps it is more profound than I had anticipated.
So before we wrap up this counselling session, I mean, and if we have the next counselling sessions, like what areas you hope to talk about, or would you like to do you like to have a counsel session every week to get different things off your chest, or is this particular issue which is forming a strong emotional core to you? Could you say, like, I mean, what you want from this counselling session going forward?
Well, I suppose really, I mean, my understanding of counselling is it's a broader perspective on the subjective predicament. You know, I suppose for me, friends would have traditionally been, you know, counsellors, because they can maybe there's no emotional investment. You know, for somebody who can look at something objectively, I think, yeah, but by discussing it, it'll restore, I don't know, greater order, I think, to the situation, and you know, maybe a more pragmatic approach or interpretation of
So to summarize everything else before we wrap this up is that, I mean, there's issues with your sons develop their own lives, and you feel like there's an element of abandonment. Is that correct? And you need issues to get over these issues, that you're very happy that your sons are progressing in their own careers.
Yeah.
But you feel that because there's a distance between you and them, it's causing you to feel a bit anxious, a bit upset, and it makes you feel something different, and you want to make yourself feel better by going to counselling to figure out your own problems, how to deal with this.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really thought of it in that context before. An issue, you know, that there might be some issue of abandonment, because I suppose, you know, I was the adult in this this relationship, but I think it's true that the abrupt nature of his departure has brought about this sort of vacuum, and abandonment is a good description for it.
Okay, thank you. How do you feel after that? I hope you enjoy that, actually.